I've heard stories from nurses that certain doctors don't want them checking their patients. And the reasons why they say they don't want them checking their patients because they don't want them to document that the patient's made progress. So for example, if someone's like 2 centimeters and the nurse isn't allowed to check the patient and then the doctor comes in hours later and checks it, oh, she's 2 centimeters. Well, you know, who's to say? You know what I'm saying? He's the only one who checked her. So, and I actually heard this from the nurses. They're saying, yeah, there's doctors that do this. But if the nurse went and checks it, now she's 4 to 5. Well, then he's not going to have a good reason to do a C-section.
Okay.
I've seen a doctor who would like to go home come up to a husband and say, do you really want to see your wife continue this?
And I would have preferred to have waited and felt it out, but they pushed for the C-section, so we went with it.
We could have your baby out in 20 minutes.
At the end of it, you have a baby boy who's healthy, and you're happy that he's healthy, and who knows how it would have went the other way, and I think that's why a lot of people don't raise the flag.
So, I mean, I hear this, and I kind of like scratch my head saying, how is it possible we've come to this?
How is it possible we've come to this? A maternity care system where doctors are being influenced by their schedules or fear of litigation, and women's medical decisions are being made in the boardrooms of hospitals and insurance companies? Breech birth, the delivery of an infant with feet or buttocks appearing first.
Vaginal breech births are not really being taught much anymore.
Obstetricians don't know as much now as they did 20, 25, 30 years ago when I began.
Hospital, everybody thinks this is like the biggest emergency, like cardiac arrest.
They don't have breech skills anymore.
Blue lights are flashing, the cart's coming.
They're not allowed to know. And who stopped them from knowing that is the insurance companies.
Oh my God, breech baby!
Breech babies are going to be delivered by cesarean section.
The insurance companies began around the early 80s to tell hospitals that they would have their insurance policies canceled if their doctors who were expert at breech birth continued to teach the incoming students how to do it.
Yet a woman at home can have a breech child. Well, how does she do it?
People in all parts of the world have always known how to get breech babies out.
She deals with her intuitive nature self, and biology is intelligent. She can help deliver her own baby, even if it's a breech baby.
This has been forgotten by the obstetricians in the United States, and it's leading it to be forgotten all over the world.
And that's unfortunate, but that's just the state of the way things are.
I want an awesome pregnancy, delivery, childbirth experience, wonderful, amazing life with my child and with my husband and my family. No one's beliefs, habits, attitudes are going to get in the way of me getting exactly that.
We're glad to have you guys here as part of the baby fair. So if you come down this afternoon, you might even become part of this documentary because you want to know about the birthing experience.
Also, we have a website, pregnantinamerica.com, which is an amazing resource for women. We've been compiling all these expert interviews and putting it onto our website. So if you're pregnant, if you're thinking about getting pregnant, if you love someone who's thinking about getting pregnant, check out our website. There's so many amazing resources for you and your family.
The outcomes in hospitals for women are less than ideal. Women are disappointed and they come out feeling robbed.
This is not something that is kind of a myth or just something that you're making up or I'm making up. It is real.
You are one of many. You are a statistic.
I wish it could be better.
Even though I love medicine, I think that women need to be more in charge of their own birth.
Your option is hospital or hospital. Unfortunately, we are victims of our insurance, so wherever Aetna says I can deliver, that's pretty much what I'm doing. And I would rather have a water birth, but they don't have that option at the hospital.
You are trying to control a very, sometimes out of control event.
I don't want to, be confined to the bed. If I want to walk around, I want to walk around.
And they put some medicine in my IV, and I didn't have any idea what was going on. I'm like, what happened?
A lot of us wish that we might not have gone in this direction.
And they tie your hands on the table because you shiver so bad that your hands will just fall and just flop.
There's others in the field that feel like attempting to control the birth and the delivery of a infant is the way to go.
Didn't tell me about it or anything, just put the vacuum on her and sucked her out.
A lot of the nurses, I think, don't realize that you're working with people. I feel that the system is broken. I just kind of went along with it.
And we're not even happy with the care we're getting.
If we have a second child, I'm going to definitely do things differently.
There's definitely an emotional impact on the family when you begin to drive that process for the sake of time, efficiencies, and control.
We asked Becky about her experience. A part of us didn't want to believe her story.
My doctor was in the OR, so the nurse said that to wait, and she would come out and she would give me the epidural as soon as she was finished. And so I waited like an hour just kicking and screaming because I was in so much pain. They called the doctor, and since the doctor was in OR and they put her on hold, then the nurse slammed the phone down and she said, "We don't have time to wait for this doctor to get over here, so we're going to go ahead and deliver the baby ourselves." Some random doctor came in, delivered the baby without any pain meds, and then after the baby was delivered, the doctor sewed me up without giving me any local anesthetic. So I felt the stitches, and it was really painful. And then the doctor left the room and left me and my baby without like help, you know, like the nurse was there and she took care of my son, and I was bleeding everywhere. And then I got up to go to the bathroom to clean myself up, and the one doctor just left the needle with the medicine in it just sitting on the shelf. And then my sister's like, "Well, what's this shot here for? What's this needle with this medicine in it?" And the nurse goes, "Oh, look, the doctor's just leaving needles laying around. She didn't even give her anesthetic." Because I was induced, because I was overdue, I wouldn't be induced again. I would let my baby come natural, but the whole experience was just really horrible.
It's pretty scary to think that someone else could take power away from me.
While making this film, many stories we heard touched our lives. Like the Connecticut father who'll have to raise his child on his own because his wife died from the infected needle wound from her epidural. And the California woman scarred for life by the flames the laser used for her C-section ignited on her body. And the Florida mom who will never get to hold or hug her baby after her arms and legs were amputated due to a bacteria she caught while in the hospital. But nothing affected us as much as one tragic story about a controversial drug, Cytotec.
This drug is not approved by the FDA for this purpose. It says on it not to be used on pregnant women. Yet it is being used all over this country to induce labor at the end of the pregnancy. As a result, we have hundreds of dead babies, many, many, many dead women, because this drug has very serious risks associated with it. For example, one of the risks is uterine rupture. The uterus, the womb, blows like a balloon has been blown too hard. It explodes. And when this happens, there's a very big chance the baby will die and a significant chance that the woman will die. This is a humongous obstetric emergency.
I'd like you to meet Tasha Oden-French. In December 2001, at the age of 32, Tasha was in perfect health and was getting ready to have her first baby. There were no problems with her pregnancy until her doctors administered the drug Cytotec, generic name misoprostol, to induce her labor. According to her family, Tasha was never warned about the risks of using Cytotec for this unapproved use. Manufactured as an anti-ulcer drug, Cytotec was never intended to be used on pregnant women. Approximately 10 hours after being administered the drug Cytotec, Tasha suffered hyperstimulation of her uterus, one of the many risks that the manufacturer of the drug warned against. An amniotic fluid embolism was released, and an emergency C-section was performed because the baby was also in distress. Both Tasha and her baby Zora died in the operating room. Do you think that if Tasha had seen the label from the manufacturer of the drug, or the letter from the drug company warning healthcare providers about its dangers, she would have allowed the use of Cytotec to induce her labor? Pressure from the family and the foundation in Tasha's name inspired the FDA to get involved and post an alert on their website. And despite the alert from the FDA and the manufacturer's warning, Cytotec is still being used on women every day.
Hospitals love Cytotec because it's cheap.
Well, Mark Bauer, a lawyer out of New York City, is committed to making sure it's not so cheap. He was able to get a settlement in a case involving Cytotec. Why would a hospital settle for $27 million if they believed there was nothing wrong with the drug?
And you don't hear about it because most of these cases are settled out of court before it ever gets to trial. And it includes a gag order, which means that nobody involved in the case can say anything about what went on.
Today, I accompanied Tasha's mother to another meeting with the FDA to get them to take a more proactive action to get doctors to stop administering the dangerous drug for its unapproved use on women in labor.
Today, we're here to find out from the FDA what the status is of the medicine guide, which is something that we've asked them to create. We submitted a petition to them after the death of my daughter and my granddaughter when they were given Cytotec.
Why is it cheap? It's cheap because the pharmaceutical company never had to spend the money to do an experimental trial on pregnant women.
We started the petition about 2 years ago. We now have close to 3,000 signatures and a lot of comments from a lot of women who've been given Cytotec and to induce their labor, who have had catastrophic events.
The hospital saves a ton of money, but the women pay the price.
Am I angry? Yeah, I'm angry. But I know from past experience that anger has to be channeled into productive modes because anger itself isn't necessarily productive.
Do not use Cytotec for induction of labor.
Changing that whole perspective on childbirth is not going to be accomplished by burning a building down.
You asked her before if she's angry. Ask her that now.
They wouldn't even take the signatures. All the other times they've taken the signatures.
They wouldn't look, they wouldn't take
would not. They're right here. Obviously the FDA doesn't have any control and apparently no influence over the medical community in terms of saying, okay, well, we don't approve this, you know, for being used to induce labor, and in fact it causes fetal death and maternal death, and the majority of ACOG doctors just, you know, go along their way inducing labor with it. They've never heard in the paper that, you know, all these cases have caused death and uterine ruptures and damaged babies, and I mean, the least they could do is that, and they waffled on that. Well, we'll put it out to all these different divisions and we'll see if we can do that. But I got to tell you, I don't hold a lot of hope. You know, yeah.
So, you know, my brother lost his wife and his baby, and he'll never get over it. And none of us will get over it.
And they said it on more than one occasion. They don't want to interfere with the practice of medicine. That's not what they do.
And if we need to take it to another level, that's where we'll go, because the whole institution it's just very sad that in a country that has the amount of technology and knowledge and education that the United States does, has such institutionalized, has institutionalized medicine, you know, and all these facades of protecting the people and you know, providing the best product possible, and it's all a sham. So we'll keep doing what we got to do, and you know, I just know that you can do what you got to do. So hopefully, you know, the combination will change things. So thank you.
The busy obstetrician has too much to do. And of all the things on their plate, the worst thing of all is normal birth. Because it takes 12 hours, it happens any old time, it's a nightmare. That's the thing I want to bring under control. And if I use induction and I use cesarean, I bring it under control.
Were doctors really trying to intentionally control women's birth experiences? I'd like to think that wasn't the case. But when I got a phone call from my sister-in-law in Kansas, whose doctor told her 3 weeks before she was even due that she was going to have a cesarean, I began to have my doubts.
So they were saying that the baby's head is too big and your pelvic area is too small.
But they weren't giving me the numbers on my pelvic area.
They wouldn't give you numbers.
She had no clue what those numbers were. She said she was going to call me back. I never heard from her.
I said, well, isn't the baby's head meant to conform to that hole and, you know, the plates molding? I said, isn't that the correct term? And she says, well, who told you that? And I said, well, actually, in our Lamaze class that we took, what Lamaze class you go to? I said, the one in your office.
He was pushing the C-section so hard.
And you hear him repeat it over and over. We're just concerned about your baby. We just want your baby to be okay. Don't you want your baby to be okay? Well, who in their right mind is going to say, no, I don't want my baby to be okay, give me half-ass care? Nobody's going to say that, okay? You know? So, then it's like you're backed into a corner. There's no way to argue with what they're telling you because they're like, well, if you want your baby to be healthy or if you want to be safe, then you need to do what we say.
So Luke and Gina decided to fire their doctor and find a new one. And it's a good thing they did, because the next day Gina went into labor, despite the fact that her doctor said she was too small and needed a C-section. It took a lot of courage for Luke and Gina to fire that doctor and find the one that had faith in Gina's body and her ability to birth her baby vaginally.
Pushing really hard. I said, you know, it's going to feel like out there, and then when it gets through, it's going to probably just jump right out of there like a fish going up stream. So I can't wait.
Well, we did wait for over 30 hours, while Gina worked hard to prove her doctor wrong and bring her child into the world the way she wanted to.
I'm so proud of my sister. She did great. She did absolutely great. I'm proud of her.
Now, we knew that the hospital was slightly annoyed with the fact that Mandy and I were there, in their faces the whole time, advocating for Gina. But once they found out that we were making a documentary, I don't think they wanted us there anymore.
You either show us or we'll have to take the tape and look at it. The things that go on in this hospital.
It's a HIPAA violation.
Yes. It's a federal violation.
I'm videotaping the life of my family.
Well, I need to see it.
My brother-in-law and his wife just gave birth.
I don't care about your brother-in-law. I want the tape.
I did care about my brother-in-law. I was there for him and Gina. So I went back to capture the first moments of my nephew's life, until security actually came into Gina's hospital room and interrupted our family moment.
The hospital administration said, we are to escort you off property and tell you not to return.
That's fine.
If we need to, I can have the police come out and issue a criminal trespass warrant.
Well, that wouldn't happen, but that's fine. I'm not trespassing.
The next day, I went to see Gina's original doctor to tell him the good news that Gina didn't need a C-section. His secretary told me he was on vacation. I wonder if that had anything to do with the C-section he had Gina scheduled for the day before he left. So I decided to file a complaint at the management office of Gina's doctor, but that didn't go so well.
You got a problem?
Yes, I do. I'd love to chat.
Are you a patient?
And since I wasn't a patient, she wouldn't speak to me at all. But that wasn't good enough, so I called her back a few days later.
I'm the Director of Operations for Preferred Medical Associates, and there are several offices that fall under our domain. But we don't set those kinds of set by their boarded certification group. And so I don't really know what you want from me. I mean, we're just the people that put practices together and make sure that they're operating efficiently, and we do the billing and that kind of stuff. But as far as getting into the clinical efficacy of what you're talking about, you're talking to the wrong person.
Who is the right person to be talking to? Why weren't health professionals addressing my concerns? I went to the hospital Gina's ex-doctor delivered babies at to find out their position.
So is this going? Can you shut that off, please? You know, to me, I've been doing this for a long time, and the C-section rate is probably the lowest it's ever been. So just
at this
depending,
particular birthing center, you mean?
not just here, just nationwide.
How could a nurse who works in a maternity ward be so wrong about a well-documented medical trend? They sent one of their big wigs down for backup.
With my sister-in-law, the doctor found that she was too small, which to me is like bogus. So how does a woman that's too small? How can a woman be too small?
Going to college?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How can a
I'm a
woman
master's
be
degree.
We're talking physical attributes. Not everybody's built the same.
I can't believe a hospital administrator was actually laughing at an expecting father. And what the hell is a security guard doing asking me if I'd been to college?
Well, it has to come out.
I know, but doesn't the baby's head have, doesn't the bones in the baby's head
You know, you're basically asking
collapse to
questions.
come out?
You should be, you know, you'd feel better talking with the doctor.
Doctors in America do not want any significant change in the present system. They have all the power, they have all the control, and they're making big bucks.
We were glad to be taking a different route. A home birth with no insurance companies, hospital quotas to meet, or unnecessary interventions. Just a loving midwife who does what she does because she wants to help other women experience the miracle of birth.
I think it's important to like what you're doing, feeling your feelings, and really just stay in them as long as you need to be, because if you stuff them, they're going to come up again until you get it.
Yeah.
And trust that, to try to be open to the willingness to trust that you have everything you need, and that inside, instinctually, you know exactly what to do. Being real is so important, because during labor, it all comes out. If it doesn't come out now,
It comes out there.
yeah, and so just being aware of where you're at. So thank you for sharing it. If there's anything I can do, I know it's hard to ask for help, but I'm right here.
Okay.
And you can call anytime, and so can you, Steve.
Thanks. Not only were we grateful for how kind, loving, and present Amy was with us, we also trusted the history and the knowledge that midwives have passed on from generation to generation. We felt safe at home with Amy, and we believed we were doing the right thing.
That's nice.
I think it's important that we understand it's not one side that's right and one side that's wrong.
If a natural birthing process starts and there is a problem, then you bring in the doctor. There's no problem doing that. I just don't think it's that you bring in the doctor first and then go through the process that way. I think that the doctors are standby.
For someone who's motivated about taking or about having their baby at home, it really might be the right thing for them. They have to understand the risks.
Things can go wrong. And when things go wrong, you need to have a hospital and doctors.
And thank goodness for C-sections. Thank goodness for technology. Once in a while, there is a reason to have an epidural to lower a woman's blood pressure if it's too high. Or to use Pitocin to get a labor started that's been stalled because the woman's tired and so is her uterus. Thank goodness for all of this stuff. But in countries where they don't use it just as a normal management of labor technique or protocol, they have much better statistics, much better outcomes, and we can learn from that. We should learn from it.
Deliver at home, but within 15 minutes of a hospital.
As soon as I think about childbirth and I really think about my body, having created with my partner, having created a real life inside of me that's going to come out into this world. I want it to be beautiful. I want it to have integrity. I want it to have life and vision and creativity and abundance and light. And I think the only way that I can do that is in our own, not to try to sound too fluffy, but our own sacred space, our own loving nest, and that's our home.
Morning. One day closer to having his baby.
Yes.
You excited? It's like waiting to play a championship game and not knowing when you're going to play the game.
Today's due date doesn't mean anything. It's just an approximate 2-week period before or after the
So
baby
are you
could
nervous
come.
about the fact that today's the due date or anything like that?
No, I'm excited.
I really think I've gone insane because I've been keeping a high level of focus and taking care of Mandy for this entire time.
Every time I think about it, it just makes me excited. And makes me visualize the birth more and more and more, and I just have more of a picture of what birth could look like and feel like.
I don't even know if it's a boy or a girl yet.
It feels very good to know how close we are to having a baby.
Tell me more about Mandy's dilation right now.
Okay, she's 1 centimeter and she's about 70% effaced, and that's huge progress from the last time. Plus the cervix has moved forward, which is something that needs to happen usually before it dilates, and that's come forward quite a bit. And it's soft, which means it's ready to dilate with just some contractions. So I worked on it a little bit. I did some cervical massage. And so sometimes when women are overdue, and I do this, things that I just did on Mandy where I check and massage the cervix, they'll go into labor that night. And sometimes when I do that, they have a few contractions, but then nothing happens.
How are you? What do they say?
They say, you're gonna have to deliver this baby tonight.
Well, seriously, how are you?
A little emotional.
Everything was great. She's gonna deliver tonight.
Is that what they're saying?
It's possible.
What are we supposed to be doing?
Spend every precious moment you can together as a couple. Be a family. You go from being a couple to a family. That's what you've always wanted your whole life.
Having some contractions. Ooh. Walking to try to stay loose and open. Really pointy.
Are you excited at all?
I'm kind of not wanting to get excited yet because I don't know if it's happening, so I don't want to be excited about something that might not be happening. I'm tired, so I'd like to get ready for bed and then kind of see what happens.
Okay, this is totally amazing. Mandy's outside, and she's totally into herself, and I'm not sure whether I want to take the camera out there and film her because it's so amazing, but I don't want to stick the camera in her face or even let her know that I'm recording and bother her state and take her out of the place she's in right now. Amy, hey, it's Steve and Mandy. It is 4:08, and Mandy is in labor. Her birthing experience has begun. I will try paging you. Yeah, give us a call on this cell phone. I'll have it with me. Oh. Answer the phone. Our midwife Amy is here. She got here at about 6:10. It's now 6:20. Mandy's still in labor. It's picked up a lot lately. She is, she's a good sport. She's having fun. It's intense. This is an intense experience for her. Mom? Hi. Everything's okay, but I think we want you to come down here. Mandy's just in a lot of pain. And I just think your presence and love can really help. She's talking about going to the hospital, getting an epidural. She's like, give me an epidural. So, I know. No, she's not feeling that. Andy, you are doing amazing. This is your experience. This has been a crazy, let's see, 12 hours now. Mandy is doing much better. Amy's been able to calm down Mandy's breathing, and so she's nice and calm now. She's still experiencing a lot of discomfort, but she's no longer screaming for an epidural, which is good news. Hopefully it won't be much longer, and she'll start being able to push soon.
So eventually Mandy, bared down, and she just looked like this birth warrior. That's how she was a birth warrior. And then boom, this head appears, and within it took a second or two, and then I realized that this head was, I couldn't tell either my son or my daughter. And that's when all these, I don't know what was going on inside of me, but I just started to fall in love with my baby. The cord is wrapped around her neck, so our midwife just pulled the cord over her neck, and then Mandy pushed the baby the rest of the way out, and I caught her, and I pulled her up to Mandy's chest and laid the baby on the chest. It was the most amazing feeling I've ever had in my life. And I never felt so much in love with my wife, with my family, and it was a miracle. There's no doubt in my mind after experiencing it, this is, as close to magic as human beings can know.
When you're able to do it yourself, the sense of transcendence is absolutely indescribable. It is the most powerful experience I've ever had in my life when I pushed my 10-pound baby out on my own at home. As an anthropologist, I can't really tell you that. As a woman who gave birth, I can say there is no more empowering experience that a woman can possibly have than giving birth herself.
I watched this woman go through her labor, and then when she got near the end, I watched her when she suddenly got her power. All the hormones began to flow, and all of this went on, and she started saying, "Get back, I'm going to have this baby now." And she had that baby, and for the first time in my life, after years in the field, I saw a woman in her full power, and it scared me to death.
Giving birth on your own means that the flow of oxytocin and prolactin from you to the baby is not interrupted. Your whole body responds to the presence of this baby on your body. The milk starts to come. The baby responds with its own pheromones and its own flood of hormones and begins to suckle. A successful bonding and breastfeeding are established, and so is a lifelong beneficial relationship. And I have to stop because it makes me cry to say that. Because people just don't get it, and it's so sad. It's so sad. You know, I've been saying this stuff for 20 years, and I usually don't cry when I say it because I've gotten so inured to that it's just the way it is. But every now and then I really feel it. It's like it's so sad what women are missing, and they don't know that they're missing it.
A few hours later, I saw worry in Amy's face. Bella wasn't latching on. She was lethargic, and her respiratory rate was really high. Amy sat me down and suggested that we go to the hospital. After much inner struggle, I decided it was the right choice. When the ambulance came, they wouldn't let Mandy or I ride in the back with Bella. Mandy was stuck in the front, and I had to follow in my car. All I could do to keep from falling apart was to trust that everything would be okay, and imagine us all together as a family, walking hand in hand. But a part of me still wondered if we'd be taking our daughter home with us.
Instead of focusing on what we don't want, maybe we should start focusing on what we do want.
Never lost a baby, never lost a mom.
The hospitals lose an awful lot of their babies. Look around, it can be done better.
Doctors are important. I don't want to say throw away doctors.
Deliver at home, but within 15 minutes of a hospital.
Last person I want to trust the life of my wife and baby with is the medical system.
Never lost a baby, never lost a mom.
I think something inside of us says we want the drama of a problem. And I did not want the drama of losing my baby. I did not want the drama of having Mandy lose her firstborn. I didn't want other people's sympathy because, you know, our baby didn't make it. We were no longer at home in a hot tub with lit candles. We were no longer in the privacy of our own home. We were in a room with pale walls and bright lights in my baby's face. What's happening? I want you to tell me what's happening. I want you to tell me, you know, what your evidence is for thinking that this might be the situation. I want to know what the alternatives are. I want to know what our options are. I want to know what the percentages are. Her getting poked with needles. And then getting poked again because they missed the vein. And then her getting poked again because they missed the vein again. And being moved in ways that a mother would never move her child. To see Isabella, to see her eyes looking around like looking for where's my mommy, where's my mommy, where's my mom? And for her only to find the faces of people who were just doing their job, as loving as these people might be, they weren't in love with our baby.
Over the course of the last 2 days, I've had about 6 hours of sleep, so I'm pretty wiped. But it feels really good to have her in my arms.
It took a lot of work to manage the hospital staff because they weren't perfect, far from perfect.
It's been over 24 hours that we've been here with her, and this is just the third time I've been able to hold her. So it's really nice and very special to get to connect with her here than draping myself over her little plastic cubicle.
You know, I had to deal with a lot of the nurses wanting to hold the baby more than me. I'm the father. Well, you're the nurse. Why do you need to hold the baby? Give the baby to me. The baby wants to be with me and the mother. And the mother first, and then with me. And then with other family, and then with friends, and then maybe with a nurse. So it wasn't easy.
It's just what happened to you. You know, it's your individual circumstances. It's your lived experience. You almost like, I'm not going to go that you create your own reality thing too much here, but it's almost like you created a chance to observe both systems from the inside. You know, you got the home birth and you got the hospital experience big time.
I know. I know. And it gave me, it gave me a lot of perspective and gave me a real understanding of what's happening inside the hospitals.
So the midwife kind of erred on the side of caution, is that?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that now? Are you mad at her for doing that?
She did what she thought was best. In the end, it was my decision to go or not go. And I asked the question, what do I want to live with for the rest of my life? Do I want to live with the fact that we went to the hospital and maybe we didn't need to? Or do I want to live with the fact that we didn't go to the hospital and I'm responsible for the death of my daughter because of that?
Which is why most people start out in the hospital. They don't want to be responsible for the death of their child, and they're afraid that if they're not in the hospital, that'll happen.
Right. Well, I certainly understand that now.
I want my birth to be a magical moment. I want to create that experience for myself, for my baby, for my husband, for us as a family.
The other day when we have a baby and we're holding him or her in our hands, we'll know that that we did the best that we could based on what we discovered throughout our journey.
I did it. I really did it. I did. I did the best for Bella that I could. I did the best for me and my family. And I did it scared. And I did it trusting. And I did it loving. And I did it in my home. With family in the room. And people that love me. And I made the best choice I could for me and my family. That feels really good. And cut.
People ask me what inspired me to make the movie. And I have a lot of answers. But it all comes down to one word. Love. I dedicate this film to my mother, who gave birth to me. To her mother, who gave life to her. To my wife, Mandy, who inspires me. To my daughter, Bella, who transformed me. And to all women and children everywhere.
For the door. Doctor says let's get this done before the weekend, 'cause I got golf in Tucson with my friends. It's time for a revolution. We have to find a better way. All you doctors, corporate lawyers, you better watch out, 'cause we're taking back the power. We're not gonna take it anymore. We're pregnant in America.
Have a baby come into the world is ultimately what it's all about. Only women get to have it, so I think it's like a blessing.
Being pregnant is wonderful. It's like that was the best time of my life, feeling that little growth inside of you.
Everybody's been doing it for thousands and thousands of years, so I can do it too. I had an epidural, so it wasn't really, I still had a lot of back labor, which didn't help, and they don't give you your money back if it doesn't work. Maybe I'll go to Holland to have my next one.
Life itself is the best orgasm.
It is a life event, of course. Some women, they only experience it once or maybe two times in their lifetime. So it's quite an experience.
There are really two ways to improve the obstetrics. One is litigation, and the other one is education.
You don't have to take the epidural at 2 centimeters, after taking the birth preparation class. You don't have to do natural childbirth, but you can do any of those things.
We need to change things because in another generation or two, we will be a very rare species, those who have given birth with their own body.
Mother Nature knows it was there long before we were ever there. I think we should take lessons from her and try and stop trying to tell her what to do.
What will it take to support the woman to have a peak experience and to welcome the baby with pure love?